Hello, this is Fred at the Gate with today's devotional. Please read Luke, the 15th chapter, verses 11 through 32. And I want to remind my brothers and sisters in Christ, doesn't matter what we've done, how far we've strayed, you can always come back to the Father. In this parable, this is the prodigal son, and for those of you who read the story, you realize that the youngest son decided he wanted his inheritance now, and so his father divided up the property and gave him his inheritance, and then he ran off and basically do what young folks tend to do. He blew it foolishly on wild living and wild women. Verse 13 says he went off to a far country, and then after he blew his money, he's considering, that there was famine in the land, and he was considering having to eat the slop that the pigs were eating. And then verse 17 says he came to his senses. Now, verse 13 says he went off to a far country, but in verse 17 he came to his senses. And the question is, how far do you have to go in order to come to your senses? However, he realized, he says, you know what? I've sinned against heaven, I've sinned against my father, and I'm not worthy to be a son, but my father's hired hands have plenty of food to eat, so I'll go back to my father and petition to just be one of his hired men. And in verse 20 it says, while he was still afar off, his father saw him in the distance and ran out to meet him, hugged him, kissed him with compassion because he loves us. And that's the thing. The father was waiting for him. Notice it saw him before he saw the father because he was waiting. He knew he would return. And when he returned, he began to give the spiel about, I'm not worthy to be your son. And at that point, verse 22, the father tells the servants, bring him the best robe and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And then he says, bring the fatted calf so that we can celebrate. Because this, my son who was dead is now alive, and who was lost is now found. In other words, he was prepared to receive him. Notice he was looking for him. And then when he came, he said, bring the fatted calf. It wasn't that he had to fatten the calf. He anticipated. And so, my brothers and sisters, I want you to understand, no matter how far you have to go before you come to your senses, realize that the Father will receive us back into his arms with love, with compassion, and bless us in a manner in which we need to be blessed by being sons of the Most High God. The question for you, for me, how far do you have to go before you come to your senses? You can always return to the Father. Be blessed.